Well, I'll tell you, Charles, if it's possible to bitch slap an entire room, J.D. Vance did it, European vacation style, just the other day. How are you?
I'm great, and I totally agree. I actually think it's the combo of first Pete Hegseth going out to visit certain bases in Europe, and saying, before Vance got to the Munich Security Conference, saying that there will be no going back to the pre-2022 Ukraine border, and also that Ukraine will not be part of NATO. Um, that was a nice opening salvo. But J.D. Vance, really, I think he went strong into that conference, and it's about time. I mean, I don't understand. I mean, we have done more for Western Europe than any other country on earth between World War I and World War II, and now and the Marshall Plan for Western Europe, and now this ridiculous buffoon, Zelensky, could in the same conference say that they can't really hold elections now because that would be against the Constitution, but at the same time claim that there ought to be a pan-European army to defend democracies like Ukraine. I mean, this guy he's barking at the moon. He's batshit crazy, Zelensky, and I think it's a wonderful thing that the Europeans, YURPIANs, ANS, would stand up there and burp that there will be no peace conference unless the Europeans are present, and then Trump and MBS and Putin just say, well, about that peace conference, you're not coming. And also, and also, the Russians, I think, you could say what you want about Russia. Maybe they've made some mistakes. We all make mistakes, but the Russian position has been crystal clear from the outset, from before this special military operation, and the Europeans have been stupid enough to go out there and admit that the Minsk Accords, which Putin and Lavrov and others point out were ratified by the UN, the Minsk Accords were never meant to be a real thing, according to multiple European leaders.
Ridiculous.
And I think the Russia and frankly the Trump administration is absolutely right to say, listen, if you Europeans want to, go to your conferences and listen to Klaus Anal Schwab and hire his minions and plot to decimate the world and continue down ruinous paths where your populations are shrinking, where energy costs are 4 times as high in Germany as they are in the United States now. Brilliant. That is fucking brilliant. You want to have a competitive paper industry, utility industry, any industry that needs power, by all means, push up the cost of energy to 4 times the level of an important competitor, and you're going to win. You'll win. And then open up your country to immigrants who have no interest in assimilating in Germany, and indeed are hostile to the founding principles and the ideals of the German society. You open up a floodgates of marauders, including Ukrainian marauders and African marauders and Middle Eastern marauders, and you'll really be able to compete against Southeast Asia and America, Texas and Nevada and Florida. It's just the people who go to these stupid ass European conferences. They should have their expense reports rejected, their jobs terminated. I don't want to cooperate in the destruction of America with a bunch of idiots, many of whom I think are conflicted, if not corrupted.
You don't want to pay the strip club bill?
Not at all.
Steak dinner.
let the hookers go somewhere else to get paid. I mean, so I mean, this is a time where you're sitting there and your negotiations with somebody who's not doing, somebody in your family, let's say a child hasn't listened, is not paying attention in school, is not putting the effort in to get the grades that person should get, and then the person turns 18 and demands a BMW, and not a 3 Series. That's where Europe is right now. It's like, guys, ladies, fuck yourselves. Just we're not going to support this. Okay? If you're going to have societies that will be hopelessly corrupt and then say that we need to comply with your Digital Services Act or whatever it's called so that policemen who are, just returned from a diversity, equity, and inclusion coven to learn what Satan would say, are going to go and police your Facebook posts or throw you in jail for criticizing the government. That's not a society that has anything in common with America right now. And indeed, I mean, if we think about who's on our friends list and who's on our enemies list, I would put much of Western Europe on our enemies list right now until there are important elections where we don't interfere through USAID.
That's basically what J.D. Vance's speech said, and then German Chancellor Scholz accused him of interfering in the German election.
I think it's pronounced shits.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they dare to do that? I mean, Keir Starmer in the UK and the Labour government bragged. They sent operatives into America to support Harris and fight Trump in 2024. And I suspect in 2020 and 2016, they were very much involved. In 16, promoting Hillary, and 20, promoting Biden. The nerve of these bastards.
Well, look at this. The bought and paid for Politico had a story here saying, the British are coming. And I mean, I guess they're kind of joking or something, but this was right before the election.
Which election?
2024.
Yeah.
Tech billionaire. This is illegal, Musk wrote. He was talking about them bringing in the British.
Exactly. And the point here is that, it would be one thing if our political operation, our public sector were lean, mean, and effective. Lizzo is less corpulent than the public sector in America. I mean,
she's losing weight, Charles. Lizzo is documenting her weight loss. I don't want to make fun of that. That's good for her to do.
I'm glad she is, but she still needs to do more of it. And I mean, our government really, from what I'm seeing now, I had no idea that so much of our government was working from home. This idea that you can have a very expensive set of figures on the government, and then the government workers can say, actually, thanks for that paycheck, but we're not going to do any work. We're going to hire McKinsey to do this work and other contractors to do this work. No fucking way. No how. And then you have people like Elizabeth Banshee, Elizabeth Warren. I think that's her tribe, Banshee. Get up there and scream. And other Democrats have literally had meltdowns on camera trying to fight the DOGE attempt to trim. It's not waste and fat. It's outright corruption. And to have that Kentucky nitwit, Mitch McConnell, vote again, in effect, challenge Trump by being the lone Republican to vote against some of these nominees, to vote with the Democrats. I mean, there needs to be in 2026, from now through 2026, in the election of 2026, the rhinos need to be extinguished. And I think the Democrat brand is hopeless. It's gone.
Charles, did you see this video? You were just talking about Pocahontas a second ago. I don't know if you're familiar with Laura's Washington, D.C. correspondent, Charles Downs, but he was the guy who confronted Elizabeth Warren where she said she doesn't get any pharmaceutical money. And then now everybody is kind of fact-checking that apparently false claim. It was very well done by Charles.
Yes, well done. I like the name. But to get up there and say, I didn't take any pharmaceutical money except for all the pharmaceutical money that I did take. Right. I mean, the woman has no credibility. And her supporters are basically a combined IQ of 13.
Yeah.
And, maybe she and her husband should be drinking more beer.
Right. That was so embarrassing, that like Thanksgiving, whatever it was.
Hi, hon. Want a beer? It was like the scene from Caddyshack.
Yeah.
Could you loofah my back?
You'll get nothing and like it. So, Charles, there's a ton of stuff going on. We've got judges going out of control trying to stop Trump. Everybody's protecting fraud. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that we're on the other team. And actually, the real team that we're on here, I used to be a Republican. I'm not a Republican, certainly not a Democrat. I think an unsaid storyline that maybe will get more attention in coming days and weeks. As you watch the DOGE team operate, as you watch Trump operate, as you watch the Democrat Party unravel, as you watch rhinos implode, the big story here is that the two-party system, or the party-based political system, I think, died with the election of 2024. Because it's not parties that pushed Trumpists across the line. It's Donald Trump and his team, his juggernaut with Musk. It's not the Republican Party that did that. And certainly the Democrat Party was, it was the party of the bubonic plague. I mean, to go and say, we're going to pretend that Joe Nitwit was president. And then when he falls apart Wizard of Oz style, at the end of the Wizard of Oz, it's clear that he's
it's
just
more like Terminator 2, where he shatters into a million pieces.
And then after bemoaning Trump and the threat posed by Trump to democracy, you then say, all right, what we're going to do to be the Democratic Party. This isn't, the Republican Party or the Country Club Party. This is the Democratic Party. So our Democratic approach is we're not going to have any primaries this time. And then at the last minute, we're just going to stipulate reality and just say that actually Kamala Harris has done a great job as second in command of the worst administration of modern history without one primary vote, because Trump is such a threat to democracy. We're going to take this I'm sorry to say it this way, but it's this bad street hooker, whose career in politics is hardly a model for any young woman to follow. I mean, she was the mayor of San Francisco's side piece and got several jobs out of that, and then got the attorney general of California, and then got into the Senate, all because she was the side piece of Montel Williams and then that mayor, Willie Brown. And so, sleeping your way to the middle of the sandwich is not exactly something that I would want anyone, male or female, to do. And then feel good about themselves as they spent the rest of their lives on the planet. I mean, this is a deplorable wench and a horrible candidate. I mean, sometimes you have a candidate like Pete Buttigieg who can maybe get through a paragraph and pretend to be halfway intelligent. But was there a moment in Kamala Harris's political career where she was a beacon of anything? Right? She's a beacon into the Chardonnay bottles that she's probably sharing with Hillary Clinton and others. I mean, it's ridiculous that the Democrats would have pulled that switcheroo. It would have tried to pretend that Kamala Harris was a legitimate contender, and then go through that whole Brat and Judy-like tour where she's trying to be high-minded, and then she decides to go into the gutter, and then she decides she's doing so badly that she has to pay off people to endorse her. I mean, so I think both parties have really, I don't think there's any coming back for either party. I really don't. I think and that may be a very good thing.
Well, so Charles Zelensky wants a European army, because it figures if you can't have NATO in Ukraine, let's just get all of Europe in Ukraine. It's sort of the same thing. I'm amazed by how, I have to say, the way he acts, it really reminds me of my ex-Ukrainian wife. He needs to be kicked out of there immediately. I have some experience in this field. He needs to be told that he's out of negotiating power. The deal is over. Sit down. Shut up. You're fired.
I would put it a little bit more strongly. I'd say, listen, moron. And I wouldn't have this message delivered by a Trump. It would be delivered by somebody who could disavow that it was ever given to him. But whoever, little Marco, exactly. So, but somebody who's tougher, maybe Hegseth. Listen, here, thanks for your comments. I'm so interested in them. I'm going to go to the proctologist in a second, but not you, Jason, obviously, but Zelensky's comments. Here's the deal, buddy. You're going to do what I say and what we tell you to do, or you're dead. It's that simple. You have to leave Ukraine. You're either going to have protection or you're not going to have protection. If you cross me in any way through this process of leaving Ukraine, you're a dead man. And your wife probably won't be protected either. Not because we're going to kill her or you, but you need protection. You've crossed a lot of people. You've made a lot of promises you can't honor. And more importantly, you've stolen a lot of money. So the first thing you're going to do is give us back all that money. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to study video of penguins clapping. And that's what you're going to do. Seals and penguins clapping. Every time I ask you to do something, that's what you're going to do. And you're going to get your fucking ass out of Kyiv, and we'll set you up in a safe house somewhere. And I don't want to hear you say anything. No book deal, no speeches, no nothing. You go to ground. Maybe you can work as a dishwasher in some Ukrainian restaurant in, northern England somewhere. But just you're off the political stage. You have no chips left, and you're lucky to be alive. And there are no buts involved here. I don't want to hear suggestion. You're going to do this our way. You're going to first, and the one thing that's most important is you're going to tell us about every penny that you sent to any member of either the Lindsey Graham, John McCain, or the Biden family. I want to know all about what was really going on with our money, a full accounting. And if there's any partial story as opposed to the full story, you're dead.
Charles, what about this headline here? This is quite crazy. They're basically saying that, the U.S. is presenting him this offer of we're taking half the minerals with nothing in return. We gave him all these billions up front. I think he doesn't realize this is like that Chaz Palminteri deal where he tells them to leave and they refuse, and then he locks the door and he says, now you just can't leave. That's the next part of this deal.
Yeah. I'm not really in favor of trying to take assets of Ukraine back. I'm not sure that that's a smart move.
It's just starting a war and keeping us occupied there, right? I mean,
because I think the mission of England and Germany and the globalists is just to keep us in a mess and keep the EU project going, keep the fiction going that there really is a meaningful EU, that can be a consumer bloc that is more important than the U.S. consumer bloc, that it can be a political and strategic operation that should be relevant. That's what these people who like to go to caviar and champagne parties and have a full plate of hookers delivered to their room every night at government expense. That's what they all want to do. We should be saying, listen, it's like kicking, a 50-year-old out of the family home when the parents are still living. I mean, we rebuilt your country, all of your countries after 1945. 1945 was 80 fucking years ago, right? Yeah. I mean, and you're trying to challenge us. I mean, you challenge us at every turn. We try to get something done. You give us shit when we tell the world that global warming is a myth, because it is a myth, climate change. And you're going to fight us on that. You have been fighting us on that. We say we want Greenland, and if France is going to get involved. Now, what business does France have in Greenland? None. And you're just going to have to stop. France is not, I mean, I have some great friends in France, but France is not a country that stands at the same level as the United States. It just isn't. And so we're looking at you, Emmanuel, and we see what you're doing. Yes, it's fun to go to Paris and in the summer, especially go to the French Tennis Open. There's some great restaurants and hotels and stuff like that. But come on, guys, if you want to cater to some of these conferences,
good coffee, nice flaky croissant.
Yeah. And, women are beautiful. Some of the fashions make sense. Many don't. But I mean, we're not doing this anymore. We're not pretending that you're on the same path that we're on, because you're not. You don't control your own borders. You have ungovernable portions in France where they've let in all these illegal immigrants, and the police are too scared to do anything. Right? You need to tend to your own knitting and sort yourselves out. Make France great again. As for these G meetings, the G-Wagon meetings, the G7, the G20, the G whatever, fuck all that bullshit. It's just irrelevant. And as are the Bilderberg meetings, as is the Bohemian Grove, as are, just stop all this stuff. Okay, we're not doing
Wait a
that.
second, Charles. Staying on France, what about all of Candace Owens' information she's revealing about?
Yeah, it's strange. I mean, I haven't really watched much of that, and I like Candace Owens. I think she got I think she got the Kamala Harris stuff right. I haven't had time, given my schedule recently, to really watch the Candace Owens stuff, but she's certainly raising a lot of questions, and the correct response, if once it got to the level, less than it is now, but where it was getting so much attention, if what she's saying is false, then Brigitte and Emmanuel have everything they need to disprove what Candace Owens is saying. The fact that they're not saying, this is incorrect and here's why, I think it's just fueling the controversy.
Yeah. No doubt about that. But Charles, what about this other major news where Elon Musk's father says Obama is a queer married to a man, and then was talking about Michelle Obama has a 9-inch schlong in her tracksuit. Did you see that?
Yeah, interview? I did, and I think it was Joan Rivers. Joan Rivers said the same thing, and a few weeks later she cited that. Yeah. Well, I mean,
look, quite funny. Elon Musk. I'm not sure who's funnier, the father or the 4-year-old kid.
Well, on the subject of Barack Obama, I actually was legitimately hopeful in 2004 when he gave that speech at the Democratic National Convention in the summer. I actually thought that speech was fantastic, and I was hopeful that the guy was as advertised. There's no black America or white America. There's one America and all that stuff. Blue and red and whatever he said. And it was a great speech, and it had some good, it had some uplifting moments to it. And what is he? He's nothing more than another Clinton-style grifter with a fake presidential library and fake book deals and fake prizes and ridiculous speeches. And to see him in 2024 on the campaign trail try to pretend that you are a racist or a sexist because you couldn't get, I hesitate to say this, but behind Kamala Harris, right? I mean,
Montel.
it's just what? Yeah, exactly.
Montel. Yeah,
exactly. It's just no. I mean, Kamala Harris is a joke, a very bad joke. She is not a manager. I mean, there are many stories out of her vice presidential staff. Turnover was ridiculously high. And she screwed up everything that she every initiative that she was supposed to be in charge of. She screwed up.
What about now? She's going to run for governor of California. Look at this. They're saying that I think it was Rick Grinnell who said this.
Yeah,
going to run for California governor if Kamala enters the race.
Look, I like
Nathan Gay. Is that a code?
I don't know, but I like Rick Grinnell. I actually like parts of California. But at this stage in the negotiations with Russia, I'd be inclined to just give California to Russia. And
no, we can't do that.
They're
basically turning it into its own little communist bloc. They're going to turn Pacific Palisades into low-income housing. I mean, I don't understand how they think they can do these things, just steal people's property and do whatever the hell they want with it. But Charles, we have only about another minute here before we make our way to the First Amendment Forum. Time flies when you're eviscerating, Kamala Harris. But there's a huge number of workers being laid off, and people are tracking all kinds of different things, like the number of houses going up for sale on Zillow and whatever, and also the number of searches for criminal defense attorneys and all that kind of stuff. So we have a lot of stuff to continue discussing. People are going to be able to join us in the First Amendment Forum. There's a lot of people who are already sponsoring the show, but if you're not, you can still, until the end of February, using your regular credit card, sponsor on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, or subscribestar.com, or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. We still have to talk about Eric Adams. There's a ton of things to discuss, Charles. So stay with us, everybody. We'll be